Here we go. Just a couple more minutes till we get started, but before we get going, how is everyone enjoying Summit so far? Nice, nice. Chat's excited. That's cool. It's nice to see everyone in this cozy cave. Yeah. And Super, how's it going for you?
Good, good. I haven't got to explore the server much yet, but after this, I'm hoping to get a real good look around at everything. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I just started playing yesterday, so it was pretty fun. Just get started. One more announcement. Yeah, it's definitely a different time zone, but it's good for people that can't make other panels to have time panels of all time zones. As for all of our panels, we'll be collecting questions throughout. If you want to throw questions about that you want the host to answer, throw them in Minecraft chat or Discord or YouTube, and I'll be collecting them for us to answer at the end. And for you, Super, I'm just going to quickly set this up for you. Send you a link. Cool, just about a minute. All right. Welcome everyone for Beating Boredom, the creation of play. We're about to get started here, so just settle down and grab a seat and enjoy the panel. Go ahead and take it away, Super Red, whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending today's panel. I am Super Red from Sproutling Studios, and today I'll be presenting Beating Boredom, the creation of play. I think everyone is familiar with the 2-week Minecraft phase. You get very motivated to start a project or a server with your friends, and it goes really well for probably like a few days, maybe a week or two, and then it usually dies out. I believe this happens because the crucial elements we're trying to find and create are not being satisfied through the ways we play and engage with it. We too often rely on the creativity of others for our enjoyment, like waiting on the latest Minecraft updates or watching YouTube videos and starting new forever worlds. I believe this is masking the true problem, which is the lack of true creativity and meaningful play. Through our experience of hosting and playing on a small Minecraft server for over 2 years, we've discovered and refined a playstyle that enriches our experience through self-enforced guidelines, events, and iterative creation. I'll begin with how we started off in our history, and then by the end, I hope to share with you where we are now and a path you could take yourself. Like many others, my first introduction to multiplayer were through LAN worlds, which were very simple, but allowed you to play and interact with people on your local network, which was a lot more fun than just playing by yourself. In late 2022, I was invited to join a server with my friend. This server had little to no rules, which created an environment of pure anarchy, with everyone scrambling for resources and fighting and killing and cheating to claim and destroy what other people had worked on. Progress was often stolen and destroyed, and because of the chaos and the constant threat of losing everything, people lost interest in the server and it eventually died off. When that 2-week Minecraft phase rolled around again, they wanted to take a different approach. Now with the server focused around friendly collaboration and building together in a somewhat close community. But after some time when people had progressed in the game and got iron and villager farms up and running and defeated the Ender Dragon probably 6 times, everyone lost interest because of the abundance of resources and no one saw it worthwhile to actually play the game. And so this server also died out. Nearing the end of that server, me and my friend had the idea of implementing a currency system to try and help manage the excess amount of resources that some people had because of the massive farms that everyone had constructed. So we created villager vouchers, which were created through a netherite printing plate, making them quite rare. This encouraged us to create an in-game banking system and got us really excited about the future of the server. Though it didn't end up saving the server from dying out, this was the first time we had ever put custom content into a server to try and fix a problem we were facing. And this sparked an idea, which was, could you have a server based around adding custom content? Yep. After I spent a lot of time working on my own projects and developing different systems and ideas with the hope that they would one day be actually used and played with, like this data pack I called Menu Makeover, which added new and exciting foods that could be found in and around your world and crafted through multi-block crafting stations. I then started hosting my own server with the idea that I could add custom content whenever we thought of something new to add. For example, we have the fishing net there, which allowed you to capture fish within, I think it was a 16-block radius of the player. Fried eggs, because at the time we had heaps and heaps of chickens and absolutely no other food source. So if you cooked eggs on a campfire, you get fried eggs. And katanas, which was a friend's idea, which if you held in the offhand and one in your main hand, you'd get a speed bonus and increased attack speed. But these ideas never really brought the idea into what we hoped it would be. And being located in a savanna and our builds reflecting the bland landscape, the server never really worked out. I then spent my time coming up with more vanilla style items, which would hopefully capture the feel of Minecraft and better suit the kind of play I was hoping for. Rope ladders could help you descend into caves. Sugar cubes could be fed to horses as a natural sort of speed boost. The lasso allowed you to ride any mob that you could reach with a fishing rod. These ideas did develop better, but it never felt like enough to implement them into a server to test them. Sometime after that, I had fully committed myself to creating a very expansive data pack, which at the time I called Jurassic Craft, which was based around finding long lost fossils and hatching your very own dinosaurs. Once I got the pack to a complete state, I was very happy with. I wanted to do a project test to find bugs and see how others thought of it. So over a few weeks, I ran a server with my friends to test it. We spawned in blocks and items and spent to speed up the progression and really test the workings of the pack, but it didn't feel like a true experience. So after many bug fixes, as a small group, we decided to start a playthrough of the pack. This was a really enjoyable experience because not only did we get to properly test the pack in a true setting, but we also got to play Minecraft with the goal of experience content that we had made ourselves. Once we explored quite a lot of the content, looking for fossils and creating dinosaurs, we continued to play. But not just because we wanted to play with the custom content, but to play on the world that we had been working on. We built new buildings which didn't have any specific purpose to us. We built a pub, a flower shop, a hotel, not because we were going after some goal, but because we enjoyed what we were doing. And so we decided to continue on that world. And as we did, we were slowly inspired by the success of the custom content we had already implemented, that we were encouraged to incorporate more and more custom content. We saw the opportunity that we had, and we decided to keep going. Not because of some big goal or plan, but because we were developing an enjoyable experience, not only for ourselves, but for one another. One thing that developed as we played were guidelines, or rules. These developed over time and evolved as we went along. These became incredibly important to the success of the server and allowed us to manage and overcome many of the problems and pitfalls commonly causing issues. We found that not having rules often leads to players working against each other with completely different mindsets on how things should operate, which removes the element of having a common experience with one another, pushing people apart, making it incredibly difficult to create the structure that you need to have a server success. Yeah. These guidelines developed as a result of overcoming challenges like different play styles, progression, and automation of items, dealing with problems like creepers destroying builds, or trying to keep a balance between practicality and personal expression, and working on how to preserve the server in a form that we wanted. So we came up with a whole bunch of guidelines, kind of like rules, but not super strict, that we would follow to help the server sustain itself. So one of the big ones was slow progression, which meant spending time at each stage of the game and not rushing to get diamond armor, not rushing to achieve things, but really staying where you are and sort of enjoying the moment. So this sort of meant we didn't really go to the nether. And we've been playing on the server for 2 years, and we really haven't had the need to because we're so engrossed in what we're doing. Though I have got quite a lot of criticism because why haven't we gone to the nether after 2 years? Justifiable limitations. Oop. Back. Here we go. So justifiable limitations means we don't often wear diamond armor because there's not really a need. Most protection can sort of be achieved with iron armor or an assortment of different things. And it allows you to have more customization of your characters, and also having not creating like super strong weapons because it sort of removes the challenge of normal basic mobs. So having that sort of constant experience throughout your play is really important. Playing together, being online at the same time is a big factor to not make progress without people there, because you sort of take the experience away from each other if someone logs on and someone's built a massive structure without you. So that was a big thing that we sort of came together around. Staying together. Your experience is shared. So our first ever base was a massive underground, basically labyrinth in this mountain, and we just kept building room after room to develop it. And it was so enjoyable because it was a world that we'd lived in, and we could see what each other were doing and building, and we could sort of work off that. So it differs from having your base hundreds of blocks away from each other and never seeing that. So no automation. So from our experience, massive automated farms really destroy servers. It really destroys how people play the game. So what it also did, not having automation, it creates a need to actually interact with the game. So you go out and you go mining and things happen and you get lost and you find things. That's meaningful, actually playing the game. It also encouraged us to create our own systems to sort of overcome and create new ways to get things and do things, which I'll touch on later. We get to the custom content. And low PvP, not no PvP, because in essence, fighting is fun, but dying is not. So we did quite a few things, which I'll touch on later, which allowed us to be able to fight with each other in sort of a playful manner, but not lose progress or have situations where it was unfair or just not fun for anyone. Cheats? Question mark. We sort of blurred the line with what was cheating. Of course, some people say data packs are cheating because they're not vanilla, but some people say commands are cheating because they're not survival. But we found that respawning people's items isn't the same as spawning items in. So we had a lot of personal items that people had, and those often were not craftable or farmable. So having a way that we could just spawn it back in from the creative inventory made the experience a lot more enjoyable because no one was super worried about going out with their fancy items and then losing it. So that often incentivizes people to just hoard their stuff away and not actually use stuff. And engagement, not achievement. And this, I think, is probably one of the most important points, which is focusing on experiencing what we had rather than looking for something new. So it really meant exploring the content that we were making and that we were already using, and not trying to go defeat the Ender Dragon or build a mega beacon, or try and getting elytras, stuff like that, because that really doesn't fulfill you the same as actually engaging with play. And I'll just quickly finish off with some game rules. Creepers kind of suck when you're building and they blow up your builds and like 40% of the blocks get deleted. But there is a game rule which you can change it so it's 100% chance that all the blocks drop. And that has been incredibly useful because it doesn't punish the player. It doesn't make them go find dirt from somewhere else to fill in a hole because they were AFK for 30 seconds. So it removes the punishing element of the in-game experience. So that was incredibly useful for us. Enderman, on the other hand, we probably should have turned off their interactions because our mountain base has been completely ripped apart by these guys because they spawn in walls and like caves and pockets, and they've just completely messed up the top of our house. But in retrospect, you could have easily avoided that. So rules and guidelines are important because they create a level playing field for everyone who's working with the same constraints, which really helps people to have a common experience, because no one's more advantaged than someone else. Everyone's working together. So it brings people together rather than pushing them apart, by overcoming the same challenges as other people. And so you get connected with each other, and allows to create a structured environment, allowing for meaningful decisions to be made by all when playing and developing. So rules as a tool. So chess is the best possible example I can think of for rules, which is a game of chess is defined by the rules. So the pieces, the attributes of the pieces are defined by the rules, and those attributes create a system, and that system people can interact with in a meaningful way because the system restricts you from moving certain pieces in different ways, and it creates importance of pieces, and the different pieces have weight. So it creates meaningful interaction because your decisions matter, because the system has defined attributes. It has rules. Go. So events. this is the next massive topic. So wanting to celebrate one of our members' birthdays, we created an event where everyone would be given a party hat and a piñata llama, which is right there, would spawn, which would drop a birthday present, which was made specifically for them, ending the event and giving everyone a piece of cake. This was the first ever event we created, and after its success, we just couldn't stop making events. So what are events? Events are moments that you have with one another. So they don't have to be structured things. Events could be you are in a cave and you get lost and you're trying to find your way home. That's a moment. That's a real moment that you have with people. Experiences would be something more structured. So that would be like the birthday event I was just talking about, where we designed things to happen in a certain way to give someone a certain experience. And then interactions. So people interacting with one another and then people interacting with the systems creates these really important moments and events. So we created the events, an event system, which used a town marker. So we defined where our town was. And so in the data packs, we could always reference where our town was, and which we could always move it. So that's a town marker in the top right. But why did events start? In our experience, events, the ones we made ourselves, started from two reasons, which were items and action. So items, there were many situations where we wanted to give people certain things, and we needed reasons to do so. So we had a custom elytra and their fairy wings, and one of the members on our server really wanted to be able to fly around, not to like travel from one location to another, but just to fly around the base and pretend they were a fairy. So we decided on their birthday to create this custom elytra and do the event. So that was the driving force behind the event. And there were so many more events that came afterwards, which were specifically to give people just items, personalized items. The second is action. So after the first event that we had, which was the birthday, Christmas rolled around, and we had the idea of what if we had a massive boss fight as like something we could go do. And so that was action. We wanted to have a big experience. So that's sort of what brought that next phase of events. So how did they evolve? The intention of the events grew because we wanted them to become more personal, being designed and made for specific people, or events that meant things to us. So this event in the background, we called it the Cosmic Concert, and this was a birthday event. It had multiple stages, but this stage we had a music artist, which was one of our friends' favorite music artists, drop down and play a concert. And at the end of the concert, they gave the guitar to our friend. So we wanted to have a really personal moment, which is where the intention sort of changed from just having fun items to sort of wanting to give people certain experiences. Because of that, the scale of the projects grew because we wanted every event. We thought, how can we make this bigger? How can we make it better? And then because of that, a lot of them became very technically heavy, and a lot of work went into creating events. And when you spend like a month working on an event and you play it in half an hour, the payoff, you really want it to mean something. So you really want the outcome to be impactful and meaningful, because that leads to people becoming excited about the next one. And so you're constantly coming up with ideas on how to make them better and more impactful and more meaningful. And so as we did that, we created more and more markers. So in the top right, we have the stage marker. So that allowed us to have a location away from our town, our village, where events could be ran from. Here we go. So themed events. We had a lot of interest in Star Wars Day, and so we did quite a few events which incorporated elements of Star Wars. So we had many stormtrooper fights. We had bounty hunters. We had fleets of Star Destroyers descend on our village. And we had lightsabers, which through the events developed. At the start, they didn't look like how they look now. They were more like sticks. But as our skills developed, we became more and more competent. And at the moment, we have a customizable lightsaber system, which we introduced during an event. Then we go into sort of personal experiences and events. So we had the Cosmic Concert, and we added like a super weapon, which was the guitar. So it could actually send off like a sonic boom shockwave, like the Warden. And we added custom music discs to sort of call back to the event itself. We also had a fairy kingdom show up for someone's birthday, and you descended you climbed up this beanstalk into this cloud kingdom, and you defended this kingdom of fairies from evil spirits. And at the end of that event, the birthday person got a vine bangle, which sort of allowed them to have natural regeneration. Here we go. Events. So seasonal events really brought something to the server, which was different from the birthday events, because they brought anticipation. So we could introduce items before the event. So we introduced wrapping paper and fairy lights and decoration items. So the weeks before Christmas, our entire server was covered with presents and fairy lights and completely decorated, ready for the event to happen. So it really brought the excitement to life and got everyone ready. And then, of course, the actual event. So we had big boss fights with a massive snowman which appeared out of the ground. We had Santa drop presents from the sky one time, and all of it left lasting effects on our server. We now have the Easter event, which was quite an early event in our history. So it was a test of what kind of different events can we do. So it was a scavenger hunt. So this Easter bunny spawned in, and I think about 50 eggs dispersed over a massive area of our base. And like 90% of them were like easily found, but there was like 2 or 3 which took us ages to find. And at the end of that, everyone was given an egg launcher, which converted normal eggs into Easter eggs and shot them. So that was because at the time we had about 30 chickens in a room, and they were producing eggs for a good few months. So we had quite a few double chests full of eggs, which we didn't know what to do with. So this was the perfect time to give a reason for that. Then we move on to Halloween. So Halloween was really moving towards the events we have today, which are really quite complex, and they had multiple phases. So this event, it had puzzles and it had decorations beforehand. It had an element of story. So this, in the middle, you'll see that's the pumpkin wraith. He spawned in as a little guy in our village, and everyone was trading with him pumpkin seeds for all these decorations. And what no one else knew was by doing so, you grew his strength. And at Halloween, he transformed into this massive creature, and he trapped you within a tomb. And you had to escape fighting ghosts, which were custom vexes, so they could fly through walls, and defeat him. So that was probably the biggest event we had, until we moved on to deciding whether or not we should have lore or not. So up to that point, we'd incorporated small stories within each event, and we'd sort of built upon them, especially for the Star Wars ones, just having callbacks to previous things. But very early on, I brought up the idea of lore. Should we have story? Should there be a continuous story throughout our server? And I was met with a resounding no from absolutely everyone, which is completely understandable in retrospect, because lore does create a lot of problems. I'm sure everyone's seen lots of YouTube videos and Let's Plays and stuff like that. Lore can be done very badly, and when forced upon people, it can add so many limitations on how people play and interact, because it forces them to play in a particular way. But so we didn't implement lore at all in the start. But in the background, I had this idea that I was thinking, like, I really want to get this working. So I slowly implemented just like seedlings in the different events, and trying to build up to something. So then we come to the culmination of everything, in my opinion, which was an event called The Fall, which really brought together story, action, and interaction. So it was a Christmas event to begin with, and we had Santa fly through and he dropped presents, and then out of nowhere, items from previous events appeared and they combined, and a massive snowman appeared. Should probably jump to the slide. A massive snowman appeared, just like our previous Christmas event, now enhanced with the power of the pumpkin wraith. So he was the ghostly snowman, and he was massive, and he had multiple phases and various attacks, and we all tried to defeat him, failing and getting thrown into a massive cave. And everyone sort of climbed down through this cave, and they found a nether reactor at the bedrock floor. And so it was supposed to be like this intense moment where we're like, what do we do with this? But of course, someone went up and immediately punched it, which was going to happen eventually, but I had hoped there was going to be a bit more time there. And so it blew up and cracked the bedrock, and the cave began to fill with lava. So we're running through this cave to get back to the surface, and as the lava rises, it did take out quite a few people on the way. But we get thrown out of the hole with the steam that it's creating, and it erupts and completely melts the snowman. And so he's defeated. But a giant sea beast rises from the ocean and fights a fleet of star destroyers, and then destroys our server. And so we actually lost our world at that point. Here we go. So that was really a culmination of spectacle and story and boss fights. And so what that did for us was, when I planned all along behind everyone's back, was I wanted to do sort of a reset on the world, which allowed us to introduce some new people to the server, and so they could have an introductory experience. It also allowed us to explore the content we'd created over time, from a beginning point, because we'd added stuff gradually. We didn't have a point of being able to test things that we'd added, and how they would interact with each other from sort of a normal survival experience. And what it did was it actually created a new experience for everyone. But everyone was very sad at the loss of our world. But I knew that we were going to go back. Of course, I hadn't coded the event. I had hoped the event would take me about a week to code, but it took about a month. So the event which took us back to our original world, we called the return, which, because so many people wanted to go back home, and I wanted to make that a really memorable experience and not just have, okay, everyone wants to go back to the server, we'll just change it back to the world. We created a massive, massive event. I think we've got some music playing. Do we? That's right. I'll keep going. Thank you. Um, Here we go. So I really wanted to push the boundaries with this event because I could do things that wouldn't impact our world because nothing was going to be transferred over. So we could really we could destroy things and we could play around with the scale. So to do so, I introduced a whole bunch of new markers. So we had the path marker, we had the hazard marker and object marker, which would spawn different things in and create particles. So I created a set of tools which in game I could set up to create this custom experience. So the event was focused around, the first part at least, was around collaboration. So everyone was set off into different directions and all of these different structures were spawned in. So we had dinosaurs spawn in and we had stormtroopers spawn in, and at each of these points, people would get a shard. And by putting all of the shards everyone had together, we were able to activate basically a cosmic beacon and travel to a custom dimension we called the Infinite. And that was sort of a world in between all worlds, where all of our creations had come from in the lore, obviously. And so it culminated in a massive boss fight with cutscenes, and everyone being able to see like sort of a collage of all this custom content which we'd created over the last few years. So the aftermath of that was people didn't want to lose their progress. So the buildings they built on this temporary server, this temporary world, no one wanted to lose that because they'd spent their time on it. They enjoyed that. They really liked that. They had pets there, and so to not lose it and erase that entire history, we brought a massive section of that world, and we sort of culminated it into a massive floating island, which is on our server. So at any point, people can go there and explore, and people can live there, and it's an actual physical part of our world. So it's a moment in time, basically. So we didn't want to lose what we had, so we brought it with us. So the impact of events, from our experience, is it creates development opportunities. So it really allows you to give reasons to why you're adding things, like the lightsabers. We didn't have a reason to add lightsabers, but we really wanted lightsabers. So we created an event where you could get them. It allows you to create personal moments. So we celebrated actual events in game. We celebrated Christmas together. We celebrated people's birthdays. And these were real moments that we had because of these events. And it creates opportunities to engage in meaningful experiences with others. So we actually, we grew together. We became better friends because of these experiences, which, yes, they are in a game, but they're meaningful because we're creating them for each other. So why should you have events? Therefore, experiences, creating moments, they're about connecting with each other, connecting with people, and they create a history for your server. So you can look back and say that this event happened and we got these items and this happened because of this, and what we have done is we have a set of advancements which shows each event. And so we have like a history which you can look back and see what events you were there for. And you can see a description and you can talk about it with your friends and we can come up with new ideas and it brings excitement for the future. Here we go. So it's all about creating moments. It's about creating real moments with real people. Yes, they are virtual events. Yes, none of it's actually real, but the moments and the connections you have with people is real because you're building a commonality. You're building an experience which you're all participating in. And so what that does is it fosters real connection, which is meaningful. So on to our final section. Iterative, and this is going to suck the amount of times I have to say this word, but iterative creation is not only the way we develop the server into what it is today, but it's also the method we constantly use to bring new life into it. So what is it? It's a circular method which allows you to develop and implement over time through a process of build, play, and improve, then constantly repeating. So how does it work? It works through gradually implementing features and ideas, and then revising those over time. So you add something and you revise it and you come back later and you think, I could improve that, I could add this, I could remove this and it'd be better. And it's gradual. So over time, you build things. So what that allows you to do is you're not going into it thinking, this is the product I want to make. You just sort of make incremental changes and additions, and it builds this massive, massive experience. There was no way that if at the start of all this, I sat down and said, this is exactly what I want. I want this server filled with heaps of events and heaps of items and everyone's working together and they're building things. That was never going to work. But what was going to work is just adding an item, adding a system, working on something, building something new, and constantly improving. And at the end, you have this massive project. So let's talk about some of the additions that we've had. And this is a gross understatement of the things we have on the server, but I'll just run through some. So the Atlas up in the top right, I really like maps, like everyone else. Having map walls are super cool, but it sucks to use an entire compass to make a map. It really does. And with us not having like iron farms and stuff like that, we wanted a way to create maps. So we created the Atlas, which, yes, you made the Atlas with maps, but after that, you could just use the Atlas and it would create a map for you. So you weren't consuming heaps and heaps of iron to make maps. So it was a bit cheaty, but like everything else it is. But it serves a purpose. It serves a purpose of being able to create maps because, in our opinion, there wasn't the right trade-off between iron and redstone to have a visual of a location. We had power armor, which was added because we weren't using diamond armor and iron armor. It's cool, but what if iron armor let you drop from super high places and take little to no fall damage, or increase your strength and your jump height? So they were the sort of things that we came up with, which were on the server. They were just additions that someone would use someday and someone would not, and they sat there in a chest, like the magic magnet. That was an item from Christmas presents. So Christmas presents were added for the Christmas events, and they were essentially lucky blocks, but there weren't any explosions. But the magic magnet was one of the present items. And if you were holding the magic magnet, any item around you would just go towards you. So it was cool for farming and stealing other people's items when they dropped them, and it was just a fun thing to have. And the recruitment pack, I'll talk about that one last. But what sucks is having wandering traders. No one likes wandering traders because they show up, you don't have any emeralds, and you can't buy anything. So what we did was the recruitment pack you could make with, I think it was a banner, a book, and maybe a bed, something like that. And if you gave the wandering trader a recruitment pack, you would turn him into a villager and he would live in your village. So you sort of saved him to use later, because wandering traders, they just leave after a certain amount of time. So it sort of created this element of, when you saw a wandering trader, you actually were excited because now you have a new guy to hang out with in your town. You put him in a shop somewhere. So it changed the way we saw things. So let's go through some of the most impactful additions we had. We had the Amethyst Amulet, which gave you natural regeneration. It was very broken, but it allowed us to do events and PvP with one another without worrying about dying. Sure, you could still die by a creeper exploding next to you, but you didn't have to worry about a skeleton just shooting you while you were AFK, which was quite nice. The Adamelia, kind of like the Crab Claw, which was suggested quite a while back. It was this gem which you put on your hand, in your offhand, and it would increase your range that you could reach. Hidden item frames. You can actually already do hidden item frames just with commands, but we wanted a way to do it in survival. So what we did is we made it that you could turn any item frame invisible just by putting it in your crafting grid. So you could do things like just put items on walls or make dioramas without having a massive item frame, which really helped when we added customizable decoration items. The jetpack, my friend came up with this idea of a jetpack inspired by Jetpack Joyride, and we were hesitant about it because it was like a mode of transportation which would drastically change how people would move around. But we added it, and it became so crucial to how we were interacting with our world. We were flying up to build things. We were dropping into caves and like jetpack clutching. It changed how we experienced things. The iron drill it was effectively an iron pick, but it had increased durability. You could repair it easily, and it had increased mining speed. So you didn't have to set up a beacon, but you could drill through mountains. And we had so many fun experiences of drilling through mountains and digging out areas because it wasn't insanely slow. Lightsabers, I've talked a bit about them already, but lightsabers were massive. They became the weapon of choice for people because they were effectively a retractable shield sword that you could block with and put in your offhand for speed boosts. And they changed combat for us because everyone had a lightsaber and they were different and they were different colors. And it was so more immersive for us than just a diamond sword or an axe or a trident, because it was personal. Hats. Hats were a big thing. Hats could spawn on mobs, and by killing them, you could get the hat. So we had, I think, over 100, I think 110, over 110 hats that we all made together. So there was so much customization that you could have to just dress up different mobs and villages, or you could wear yourself. And it added an element of personalization, which we didn't have otherwise. And music discs were often in like a reward item, but we added songs that we liked, and we just had so many fun experiences of just playing them in our base and just jumping around and doing stuff. Okay. We also created many systems. So we created a brewing system because we had a few bars and we had a saloon, and we wanted to be able to make different drinks. So on the left, we've got cactus juice, and we have, I think that's honey beer up on the top right. And so that was a custom workstation which you could put items in and you get a custom item out. And then machines. Because we didn't have massive farms, we wanted a way to be able to sort of change items from one to another and automate some things, but through interaction. So we made machines. And that turned into the inspiration for my data pack, Machines of Steam. Fast travel was another massive thing that we had, which changed the way we moved around the world because we could navigate to different biomes easily, but we had rules with the things we brought in. So we physically made all of the rail lines from each location. So we did have fast travel, so you could teleport from one spot to another, but we had put in the work to build the rail lines and clear the roads and do all that stuff. So it felt meaningful, and we had experiences doing that. It opened opportunities to go to different locations. So we had this island which we built a boat to, and we filled it with dinosaurs and labs, and that would be known for us as Dinosaur Island. Yep. All right. Much of the content was forgotten or lost or not implemented properly. So we had things like rare fruits, which you can still get, but it's such a low chance by destroying jungle leaves or dark oak leaves that you'll never get the coconut or the banana or the opal apple. And they don't really have many uses. We have the singing alien, which was an idea to have an item, kind of like a goat horn, but it would just like sing random notes and stuff. But that was never added. Toys in the bottom right, they were effectively totems of undying, but just funny looking. And they were Christmas presents. But because dying didn't have the same impact as a hardcore world, they weren't really necessary. So they sort of just sat around. And then the invisibility cloak there, which was a really good idea and it worked really well, but it didn't create the same impact as other items did. So no one really used it. It sort of just faded away. And that's okay. Some things just don't work out, and that's okay. Because a lot of the content was personalized, and that was really impactful. So we had birthday cards, which are written books with custom textures. So you can actually write birthday cards, and we have collections of cards that we give one and each other. A fairy wings, which are a custom pair of elytra, which allows one person on the server to glide around, and that's it. And no one's upset about it because it's meaningful to them. The sonic guitar, which I've touched on earlier, it's like a super weapon, just again for one person. It's just an implementation just for one person to have a unique experience. And Christmas stockings, which everyone on the server has a custom Christmas stocking. Just decorate stuff with. So the impact of developing this way is you're able to develop a whole bunch of ideas. So you get to try out things through experimentation, and you get to develop something, and if it doesn't work, you can redirect. And you can change your ideas, and you can try new things. It really lends itself to this dynamic approach. It also introduces a whole bunch of creativity and collaboration because you can do these small little projects with your friends and you can add things and work together. It allows for heaps and heaps of testing, so you actually get to test your ideas out. If they don't work, it doesn't matter because you can just add something else or you could try something else. And so you get to test out projects and stuff like that. Skill development. So you get massive development in experimentation by trying new ideas. Versatility. You get skills in modeling and coding and texturing and creating pipelines and stuff like that. Managing servers, files, heaps of stuff. And you gain competence in them. You get better at stuff over time because you're willing to try more things. Project development. Through this process of iterative creation, we realized that we could make the Jurassic Craft data pack so much better. On the right over there, that was one of our dinosaurs that got struck by lightning and turned into a zombie pigman dinosaur. So we found many bugs, but we decided to improve it. So now our data pack has, I think, 20 different dinosaurs with, I think, 4 different variants, and they have animations, and it's so much more expansive because we got to play with it over time and come up with new ideas and decide which direction to take it. Much like Machines of Same, which is here at the summit this year. So it started with just small elements in our server data pack, not meaning to go anywhere, but we realized it could be so much more. So I do encourage you to go have a look at it if you have time. So, conclusion. I wanted to do this talk because of the way I look at games. I don't like the idea that games should be used to fill your time, or that somehow completing repetitive virtual tasks have any actual meaning. But what I do believe is that the connections you have with people are real. Your online friends are your friends. The connections you have with them are real, and the moments and the time you spend with them is meaningful. Games don't have to be this fake reality that consumes us, because they can be meaningful extensions of our real world. Playing on our Minecraft server wasn't just playing a game. It was real time spent with one another, real moments created by a structured environment where we had a real history and we were excited about the future. We created an environment where we weren't just playing, but we were creating in and outside of the game. Here we go. At the end of the day, meaningful play doesn't come from virtual achievements or excessive playtime, but it comes from real moments with real people. It's the shared experiences of building together and exploring, coming up with ideas to bring new life into your environment, and spending time and effort to create experiences to share with each other. You have this amazing opportunity to create an experience for the people you want to play with. Rather than just playing something, you can create something meaningful, and that is how you beat boredom. Thank you for listening. All right. I will
Wow, that
open
was
it up to
awesome.
questions, I think.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was really great. Really well put together. Great ending. Super wonderful. I sent you a document with a couple questions, and I'll read them out loud.
Yes. All right.
But I think everyone really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you.
So
I did shrink
one
chat,
question.
so I saw some stuff popping up, but it's very small. Yes.
Yeah.
First question.
Yeah. Could custom content still be fun in the late game?
In the late game, absolutely. Whether or not you're saying late game as in progression wise, or late game as in you've played it for a long time, 100%, both of them. Custom content, it fills out your world. So having these different elements and experiences that you can go do and play with just build upon it. So it's not something to go and achieve and like now it's done, now you're done with that. It's something to constantly revisit. So it's not something you just do and then put behind you. It's something you immerse yourself in.
Next,
Yes. Next question, I
next
think.
question. How hard is it to make these events? This was related to the birthday event with the musical artist.
Oh, okay. It can be difficult. And I say can because it's all about what you want. Um, of course, you're going to have bugs and problems and stuff, but how we did it was we broke the events down into different functions. So we had a start function, an end function, and we had a few different functions in between for different phases. And so you do something, and the first phase would start. Either a time a thing would tick over and it would go to the next phase, or it would detect if a player did something and it would go to the next phase. And so you just try and break it down as best you can. But it really depends on how much effort you want to put into it. I've had we created an event in, I think it was 2 days, 2 or 3 days. But of course, I've spent a month working on one event, and it took an hour to play through, and that was it, and that it was done, and that's the only time we're going to play through it. So it's whatever you want to put into it, really. Next question.
Yeah. How do you deal with Minecraft updates potentially breaking your stuff? Because I think you said that you had some worlds for 2 years, so is that something you
Yeah,
deal with?
um, that's a really good question. So we were probably a few months into the server when, like, I don't remember the update exactly, but it completely changed how item textures worked. So it went from custom model data being the big thing to end all things, um, to that not working at all, pretty much. Um, so we had a lot of textures that we had to completely redo. And that wasn't just redoing the texture pack, you had to redo pretty much everything in the data pack. But what I will say is changes like that are happening less and less, um, from Mojang, which, thank you. A lot of the additions now usually just impact small specific things, like world gen or dimensions, and those things you can sort of overcome, really easily. So don't let that deter you from trying to make stuff. Yes.
Cool. We got another question. How many players do you have on the SMP, and how often do people play? And then, and similar part, like how do you get people to log on and play between the events, just in general, like player
Yeah.
activity?
Yeah. Great point. Um, so for a lot of the time, we had about three of us constantly. Um, at points, I think currently we've got 5 people at the moment, and we're just friends. So we want to be playing together. We want these sort of experiences. So a lot of it's just finding people that want to be doing what you're doing, um, and so you're not trying to force them to play, but a lot of this stuff that I've talked about today, it really encourages people to get on and just talk. We sit in Discord like a lot and just talk about stuff while we're on the server, or when we're not on the server. We just talk about stuff and we come up with ideas, and we it's a very organic thing. So it's not about trying to force people to constantly play on the server. We've had weeks and months where no one's really gone on because people have lives. I have a job, they have jobs, they had school, I had school, stuff like that happens. It's okay. You hop on for a few hours, maybe a week, and that's all right, because it's not about like trying to do this big thing. We're not trying to create this massive experience. We're just trying to have fun with some people. We're just trying to, connect. And that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, good answer. Have you seen or tried the matcha flavored data pack? Did you have any thoughts about that?
Matcha flavored.
I think this might have just been something that went viral on YouTube. So if you haven't seen it yet, then you might
I
want to check it
have
out.
not seen it. No, no, I haven't. But I haven't seen it, so I might have to have a look. Um,
Yeah. How do you find the balance in making custom items that hinder the player from interacting with the base game? For example, machines that override the use for using vanilla redstone contraptions.
yeah, that's a good point. Um, which is, I think, when you're making data packs, there's usually 2 or 3 ways you can go. Which is either you make a complete experience, um, which stands alone. Um, you can make content which overrides certain things, and you can make content which works with it. So I tend to lean towards the you don't want to override anything that's in the game. Um, and up to this point, I think we've done it. Um, so we're not really overriding anything. So the machines itself don't override redstone. They do different things. What we do overwrite, which I guess I should probably point out, is let's say iron farms. We do sort of overwrite iron farms, but I don't really, I don't really respect iron farms. I guess I should say, um, because you're not really interacting with it. So what we do is we've introduced a system which encourages the player to interact. So you go out and you mine cobblestone and you take it to your machines, which you have to run and interact with, and you can break the cobblestone down and then you can sluice it and you can get iron. So it's a system which encourages interaction, and I would definitely prefer that over a massive stagnant farm. So we're not really replacing Minecraft stuff when we can, because we still want to interact, with the normal base game content, but we also want to just have our own stuff as well. So it doesn't have to be we're overriding; we can just add as well.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
I'll do one last question. Um, and I think this you might have an interesting answer to this one, but
Yeah.
could someone do this stuff without data packs and stuff? Especially like considering you might be familiar with data packs, there might be other people in your server that aren't as familiar. Um, maybe you could speak more about other people creating content that aren't you for your server, something like that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So personally, I had the most experience with data packs. So um, for a lot of the other people on the server, they hadn't opened, they hadn't used Minecraft commands, they hadn't made models before. So I think there's a few ways you can answer this question actually, but um, you don't have to be super involved in the coding. People made hats, so they jumped in, they came up with ideas for hats. They drew pictures. We've had people make fan art. Like we've had one person who, for someone's birthday, made fan art because they didn't know how to code. So they made fan art of the characters, and that's something we just have in our world now. One of the pictures there at the end, here you go. Yeah, that was artwork which we miniaturized and made into a pixel art for our world. So you don't have to be super involved in the coding. You can definitely jump in for different aspects, but without the use of data packs, I guess so. I before I knew what data packs were, I was trying to do this sort of stuff with commands and just having command blocks, spawning in items and stuff like that. It's definitely harder, I would say, just because the things you can do with data packs are so massive, as you probably can see with the Smith Summit. Um, but if you're not wanting to get into data packs because it looks scary or it's a big learning curve, I wouldn't worry about that. You could definitely jump in and just try and do stuff. Yeah. So it sort of depends which way that question's going, but you can definitely do it in different aspects, not just of Minecraft, but other stuff in your life as well. It's all about creating moments and connections with people, and sort of just building on what you've already got going.
Wow. Well, I guess we'll have to end it there. It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Super Red, for joining us.
Thank you.
And
I
thank
just
you,
realized I didn't
audience,
have a
for.
microphone this entire time. You've got a microphone. I don't.
Oh, no, I forgot
I
to
feel a
get
bit
you a
left out now.
microphone. We can
It's all
add
right.
it in
It's okay.
post. Thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you for giving us your presentation. If you are interested in checking out Super Red's booth, you can check them out at the Machine of Steam's booth in the Welded Woodlands, I think.
Yes, that's where it is.
Okay.
Yes, it's here.
You'll
So
have biomes here, yeah. And go ahead and enjoy the rest of the summit. Triple Nerd, can you play us out? Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
I'll go ahead and end the stream.